Hello, this is Bill Webb, aka Billy Indiana. Today I'm going to do a 3x3x3 review for Between Two Castles of Mad King Ludwig. This game is by Ben Rossett and Matthew O'Malley and produced by Stonemaier Games and Bezier Games. I'm going to talk to you about three things that I like about this game, three things that either I didn't enjoy or I could see other players not liking, and then give you at least three recommendations of other games that are similar in some way to Between Two Castles of Mad King Ludwig. So these are the components that come in Between Two Castles of Mad King Ludwig. There's two nice game trays. They both have nice covers that seal them in and keep everything in place. I've taken those off, and you can see that in this red box, there's the little castle meeples for creating just a place for each player to put their castle and keep track of whose is whose by the different colors. So there's 7 different castles because you can play this game from 1 to 7 players. Then every player is also going to get their throne room tile, and it has a specific arrangement of how they want you to get started. So this one says you get 2 points if you can get a utility room and a sleeping room exactly here and here, right above and right to the right of that. This one says you can get 2 points per tile if you can get a living room and a sleeping room right here and right here, the 2 spots directly above it. So every throne room has its own little goal to get the game started. And then each of these little containers, except for the 2 down here at the bottom, have 9 tiles, and you're going to give everybody a throne room, and then you're going to give everybody a stack of 9 tiles to start with. It's a drafting game, so you're going to look at those 9 tiles. You're going to pick 2, one for the castle to your left and one for the castle to your right. You're going to pass the tiles. Everyone's going to repeat that process. You're going to be placing the tiles in both the castle, one on your left, one on your right, with the person to your left and to your right. So there's a sense of cooperation in that you'll reveal those tiles and say, hey, here's what I have, what do you have? You'll talk about how you're going to combine those 2 tiles around your throne room, following the orthogonally adjacent rules, and also matching which tiles can be on the ground or above and which ones can be below the ground. And there's a nice little player aid here that shows all the different arrangements and limitations. So these can only be above ground, these can be above or below or at ground level, and then these must be below ground level. And then as you're placing the tiles out, there's also bonuses for getting 3 of a kind and 5 of a kind, and they are explained here on this side of the player aid. And then it also shows you how the different types, the food, living room, utilities, outdoors, sleeping, corridors, and downstairs rooms tend to score in their general pattern, whether it's based on the tiles above and below, or the tiles surrounding, or connected tiles, or having multiple kinds of a different color, different things like that. And then you've got the score pad as well. Let me very briefly pause and set up a quick 3-player game, what it would look like, and give you one last little bit of instruction on how it plays, and then we'll jump right into the review. So this is what it would look like for a 3-player game. I'm going to be building onto this castle and this castle because I'm right in the center. I'm right here in front of this. And so I'll be working on these 2 castles. I'll be cooperating with this castle to the person that's sitting here between these 2, and I'll be cooperating on the one on my right with the person who's sitting over here, and they would be cooperating on this 3rd castle here in the middle. There's also a 2-player variant where if you just have 2 players, you take turns operating the 3rd one as Ludwig, an AI, and you alternate who gets to place the tiles there. And as you place the tiles, you're going to have a drafting scenario, like I said. So I might look at these tiles right here and pick 2. I'm going to look through them and decide which 2 I want to place. I'll decide which one I want to put on this castle, which one I want to put on this castle, and we'll all put them face down. And then once everybody's chosen their tiles, we'll reveal them. I'll talk with the person on my left about how we want to arrange our tiles here. I'll talk with the person on my right about how we want to arrange the tiles here. And we go through until these 9 tiles that we started with being placed 2 at a time are all gone except for obviously the 9th tile, and that ends the first round. Then we do the same thing in the second round with a new set of 9 tiles, and we just rotate the opposite direction in terms of which way we pass the tiles in our drafting process. Once we've gone through 2 rounds, we score up our points for how the tiles are arranged in our castles based on all the different point values for the tiles. This yellow container here, this yellow game tray, has a lot of these special tiles that you can place. So if you get 3 of a kind or eventually 5 of a kind, you get to take some bonus tiles, and these are the bonus tiles. And so like a tower, you count every tile that's beneath that as +1, and then for the grand foyer, you count every tile in the 8 positions around it as +1. And then for the fountain, it's just straight up 5 points. And then for these little attendants, you put them on the throne room, and they each have a little symbol. It's pretty small here, but this one has the symbol of a picture frame. And then one of them has swords, one of them has, or sorry, that one's a mirror, one's a picture frame, one has swords, and one has torches. And all of the tiles in the regular, not the bonus one, but all the regular tiles have a few things. They've got a symbol in the top left. This one has Z's because it's a sleeping room. They've got a symbol in the top right. This one has a flame because that's the style of room. It's got a torch in the room. And then down the bottom, it tells you how they score. So this says 4 points if you have all 6 other colors represented in your castle, and 1 point if you don't. And so they all have their own particular scoring patterns. And you're going to be thinking about with these attendants, if I put one of these attendants with the swords on there, I'm going to want to try to put tiles in my castle that have swords on them so they match, because this will give me 1 point for every tile in my castle with swords. So that's how the attendants work. There's also one of the bonuses for 3 of a kind, 5 of a kind. You can get these cards. You get 3 and you look at 3 and choose one. So for instance, this says 1 point for every room on the 3rd level or higher. This says 4 points for every 5 tiles that are the same. This one says 1 point for every tile that's around your throne room. So you're going to look at the 3 and pick the one that's going to help you the most, and then you'll score that at the end of the game. So these are the bonus tiles that you would find and use to play the Between Two Castles of Mad King Ludwig game. At the end, you're going to count up both castles. I will be looking at my scores for these, and these 2 players will be looking at their 2 castles that are on either side of them. And you win based on whatever of your 2 castles is the lowest. And so my lowest might be to my left, but the person to my left, their lowest may be the one over here across from me. So we're looking and seeing what is your lowest scoring castle, and the best worst castle wins. And so that's how you play the Between Two Castles of Mad King Ludwig game. Now let's talk about what were my opinions about the game, what I like about it, what did I not like about it, and what are some other games that I think have a similar style, or at least some connection in similarity to the Between Two Castles of Mad King Ludwig game. Now let me talk about the 3 things that I really enjoyed about Between Two Castles of Mad King Ludwig. The first one is the great quality of the components. They look great. The game trays are tremendous. They're keep it very well organized. And the art on the tiles is great. The quality, the thickness of the tiles is great. The titles of some of these, the Sauerkraut Room, the Scythe Room, a little homage to one of his games, the Hall of Ghosts, the Snake Pit, the Pit of Despair. There's all kinds of just great tiles in here, great titles. So the art, the quality of the little wooden castles, they all have a different shape. The components were great. So that was the first thing that really stood out to me and that I really enjoy about this game. The second one is that it's a very unique game. I think other than Magical Unicorn Quest, I've never played another game where you're playing in 2 areas to your right and your left, and you're actually cooperating while still being competitive. So that whole, I'm cooperating with you now, but in the long range, I'm competing. And then the other side of that is that in that competition, you're scoring your worst castle. That's what's going to determine whether you win or not. So you're trying to have the best worst castle, which is also very unique. So it was unique to me, and I think would be unique to a lot of newer gamers. And so that drew me into as something that's different, something that might interest players who are just getting into board game hobby and want to try something that's new and fresh. The third thing is, I think it's what I would call a nice bridge game for players who maybe have played some games but don't have a lot of experience with playing games. This is one that you can teach pretty easily. I'm not sure I would try to teach it right away to a complete newbie who's not really played any modern board games. But if they have any experience at all, this would be a pretty nice bridge game to help them kind of take that next step. The game has quite a bit of depth, so for gamer types, they would enjoy that depth and be able to really think about min-maxing their arrangements. But for newer gamers, you can actually kind of teach them as you go because you're cooperating with them. So the person on my left, I'm actually helping them place the tiles and talking through why am I placing it this way, and actually teaching them the strategy as we play. And then I'm doing the same thing for the person at my right. And so, for instance, if my wife and I wanted to play with 2 people, we just sit opposite each other and then have them sit opposite each other. And I'm helping them both in my strategy and thinking, and she's helping them both in her strategy and thinking as we're cooperating. And so after one game, they're going to know it pretty well. And it's a short game. My wife and I play it in 20, 30 minutes at 2-player count. And so, I don't think it really takes much more time as the game scales up. I've heard that even going all the way up to 7 players, it doesn't really make the game that much longer because so much of it is simultaneous action. So you could play a game and they would, by the end, really know it well and jump right on the second game and let them kind of be on their own, not really having to help them through it. Another thing, too, is the throne room itself even just says, hey, on this one, I need a corridor and a food room right above it. So it gives them something to shoot for right off the bat. So they don't have to be thinking, well, what's best? Well, just start there. It gives them a good starting point. So all of those things about helping new players be able to learn it quickly, being able to kind of teach them as you go, being able to play a game quickly and then jump right back in, being able to play with lots of players. I think that you also is a unique thing, being able to go all the way up to 7. And with the expansion coming out actually tomorrow, you can go up to 8 players with that expansion. So all of those things I think make it a nice bridge game where you could do in big groups, small groups, new players, experienced players, lots of flexibility in who you could play it with. And I don't think it would be too hard to teach because of the way the game plays players who don't have a ton of experience with board games. So those are the 3 things I really enjoy about Between Two Castles of Mad King Ludwig. Now, what are the things that I wasn't so crazy about? Well, the first thing that I'll mention is the tiles. While they're great quality, the art's great, the titles are fun, the print and the iconography, it's kind of small. And so if you're trying to figure out these little icons and images and how they score, but it's not right in front of you. It's over to your right, it's over to your left. And if you're playing with players who don't have tremendous eyesight or the lighting's not great, that may be kind of tricky, trying to see the details on those cards when it's kind of small print and small iconography. So I understand why the tiles need to be small, because if you're going to play with up to 7 players, then you need lots of space. But it's kind of sad that smallness of the tiles makes it a little bit hard potentially for players to see what's going on, even just on the ones right beside, let alone the ones that are across the table if you have 5, 6, 7 players. So that was the first thing that I think might be, kind of a negative. The second thing is that I do see that while my wife and I can crank out games and we're not usually very analysis paralysis prone, I could see certain players really getting stuck and just, especially at the beginning of your turn, you're looking at 9 tiles, or in a 2-player game, 2 and then 9, so 11 different tiles in one turn when you're first starting the round. And you may just feel overwhelmed with all the choices, and it might just bog certain players down who are prone to analysis paralysis. So I could see that being a hang-up for certain kinds of players as well. And then the third thing is the replayability. I'm excited that there is an expansion coming out. The Secrets and Soirees expansion comes out tomorrow. It adds some new kinds of rooms and some new gameplay features that I'm really excited to try. It adds up to, like I said, 8 players, brings in a different kind of 2-player mode and 2 solo modes. So I'm excited about that. But just this game by itself, not sure about the replayability. I think we'll keep it around for a while. It's fun. It's easy to teach other people. It's quick. But I have noticed, and we've only been playing it for a few days. We played it several times in a few days, but it seems like the sleeping rooms and the towers and the attendants might be a little overpowered, or the person who can really focus on those is going to have a really strong chance of winning. It's probably a little more balanced than I think it is, but that concerns me just a bit. Now, again, with that expansion coming in and new modes of play and more opportunities for mixing and matching things up, I think that may extend that replayability, but that's a slight concern for me, that third thing that I would say may be a little thing holding it back. All right, so those are the 3 things that I'm not sure are the best characteristics for this game. So what are some games that I think have some similarities to Between Two Castles of the Mad King Ludwig? The first kind of game I think that would relate well are just other tile-laying games like Carcassonne or Isle of Skye, where you're putting tiles down and creating patterns. Now, the way that the games score are very different, and these, especially Carcassonne with some of these big box expansions, is not going to be as quick of a game. But if you like tile laying, you might want to try one of those others. I don't have Isle of Skye, but I've played it digitally. Both these are fun tile laying games. Another kind of game, if you like the drafting aspect of taking and passing the tiles, you could try other drafting games like Sushi Roll or Sushi Go. We like both. This one you're rolling dice and then passing and drafting and passing the dice. Sushi Go you're doing with cards. And then the classic drafting game, Seven Wonders, another of our favorites, where you're taking cards, passing cards, and using that drafting technique. So if you really like the drafting, Sushi Go, Sushi Roll, or Seven Wonders would all be great additions to your collection. Now, if you like the tableau of tiles, not so much the Carcassonne style, but actually building more of a true tableau, you might like games like Alhambra. And this is another big box game we have with lots of expansions, but in Alhambra, you're laying out tiles and you're putting them in certain ways to capitalize on their scoring, and you're building your own Alhambra of tiles, kind of like you're building your own castle here. So other than the obvious Between Two Cities game and Castles of Mad King Ludwig's game, these are some others that I see some similarities that if you like this game, you may want to try some of these others, or vice versa. So that is my 3x3x3 review of Between Two Castles of Mad King Ludwig. Hopefully it was helpful and informative for you. If it was, it'd be great if you'd click on that thumbs up down below, give it a like, and it'd be terrific if you'd subscribe to the channel. If you want to see other videos coming out in the future, click on that bell icon, and I'd love to see some comments down below. What do you think about this game, Between Two Castles of Mad King Ludwig, or the two original games, Castles of Mad King Ludwig, or Between Two Cities, or any of the other recommendations I made, or maybe you have other recommendations that you think are comparable. I'd love to see it in the comments down below. As always, thanks for watching. This is Bill, Indiana, signing off.